There's an election coming next month, and we're in a series comparing and contrasting the parties and candidates, helping you to understand what's at stake. The past 2 weeks, we've discussed at length the issues of liberty and security. Would electing Republicans be better or Democrats? In the Liberty episode, we pointed out the Harris intentions for price control, silencing misinformation on the internet, central bank digital currencies, banning fracking, adding the Green New Deal, plus additional taxes and regulations. She's even mentioned that she would like to tax unrealized capital gains. That means you might owe tax because your stocks or the family farm or even your house is suddenly worth a little bit more. Of course, you never get the gain until you sell. These things weren't discussed at the debate, or if they were, she or the moderators flat out lied about her prior record. Last week's episode focused on security. We demonstrated VP Harris's Marxist ties as well as her running mate, Governor Walz's history with Maoism. We aren't reassured that both she and Walz are gun owners because both are clearly on the record seeking to confiscate at least some kinds of guns. The other aberrant record of Harris is her work with Biden on the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. She was the last one in the Situation Room guiding his policy, at least until it was a miserable failure, leaving behind tens of billions of dollars in equipment that will be sold to America's enemies. Real Americans died in that fiasco. It was all done on her watch, yet she attempts to blame Trump with the media's help. Probably the worst of her security record has been as border czar. That's an absolute title she was given and kept until it was inconvenient. Now she denies involvement. To deflect from her record, she and the media try to call Trump racist for pointing out missing cats in Ohio. And yet the small town of Springfield is struggling under the weight of an additional 20,000 migrants added to their population of less than 60,000 just 4 years ago. Ask yourself, how would you feel if your small town suddenly had 20,000 migrants who don't speak English dumped on you? It's not racist to be concerned about such rapid change, but the record is so bad the Harris team and media have to try and cover it up by questioning how many cats were actually killed and eaten. Urban myth, we're told. Bottom line, Kamala Harris as president would be a disaster for both your liberty and your security. Go back and watch those episodes while you can. They are so on target that you never know if someone will try to remove them, and absolutely sign up for and download the free economic battle plans. They document everything we cover. Today, we switch gears and do a deep dive comparing the values of the two candidates and parties. Join me in the Economic War Room where you will learn how your choice in this election will impact your future. This is the third in our three-part series titled, What's at Stake? Today, we're talking about which candidate aligns with your values. What does the word values mean? Well, from the Cambridge Dictionary, they say values are the beliefs people have, especially about what is right and wrong and what is most important in life that controls their behavior. And they use the term family, moral, traditional values. When I hear the word values, I think of all of that. I also think of Judeo-Christian and Western civilization. The reason we react negatively hearing about people eating cats is that it goes against our moral sense. Cats are pets in our culture, not food. But other cultures have different diets. Maybe more disturbing are the rumors of cat slaughter and voodoo rituals. Speaking of food, we already covered how the World Economic Forum has a policy to make us eat bugs to save the planet. You can assume that Harris would be in favor of that. Trump, he seems more like a pro-cheeseburger guy to me. But it's the other values that are really stark and obvious differences between the candidates. For the most part, Trump seems more a live and let live guy, while Harris is a very obvious agenda. Her best example, the life issue. Let's be clear, President Trump does not endorse a nationwide abortion ban. He's said that a lot. And yet the Democrats, including Harris herself, plus the media, have gone after Trump. To the Christians, they say, how dare he not want to ban this evil practice? But to the progressives, they say, how dare he plan to take away your reproductive rights by banning abortion? That is cynical and disingenuous. Trump's actual position is purposely nuanced, no doubt. He believes abortion should be left to the states, and he appointed justices who overturned Roe v. Wade to do just that. That's true. Trump rejects a national abortion ban, but if you're pro-life, isn't his position for unborn babies better than Kamala Harris's? During the debate, Trump claimed that Harris and Walz want zero restrictions on abortion up to the point of birth and then after in some cases. Ridiculous, the fact checker said, and yet the record pretty well aligns with what he said. Let's be clear, if abortion's your thing, like it is for the Satanist church, you should vote Harrison Walz. Now let's explore the facts about post-birth abortion. Question, are babies killed after being born, as Trump claims? Yeah, answer is true. Some states allow abortion up to the very moment of birth and then do verbal gymnastics to claim that viable and alive outside the womb is not a birth. It's true that such very late-term abortions are extremely rare, but they're not illegal in some cases, and that's the point. Second, in botched abortions, babies can be born alive and then neglected until they die. In a practical and moral sense, it's the same as post-birth abortion. And it happened in Minnesota, as noted by the Daily Signal. As Democrats and media outlets accuse former President Donald Trump of dramatizing the Democrat abortion agenda, data from the Minnesota Department of Health shows that at least 8 babies who survived abortion in the state were left to die. Under a 2015 Minnesota law, the state was required to report whether abortions resulted in the live birth of a baby, what actions were taken to preserve the life of that baby, and whether the baby survived. Those reporting requirements exposed that between January 1st, 2021 and December 31st, physicians performed 5 abortions resulting in a baby's live birth. No measures were taken to help the first baby, who died with fetal abnormalities, that resulted in death shortly after delivery. 2 of the babies were given comfort care measures as they died. No measures were taken to preserve life for the last 2 babies who were pre-viable. That's the case in Minnesota. Here's the kicker. Governor Walz is the one who changed the law, so you don't have to report that anymore, but babies did die. Now let's look at a tweet from Kristen Hawkins that shows how radical Tim Walz is. By his own admission, more radical than Nancy Pelosi. In regard to Kamala Harris, she vowed twice to block a bill that would protect unborn babies. Quoting from September 14, 2024 Daily Caller, in 2019 and 2020, when Harris was serving in the Senate, she twice voted to block a bill that would have required doctors to provide the same health care to a newborn baby who had survived an abortion as they would to a newborn who had not been targeted for an abortion. She vetoed it. What's wrong with that? The truth is, Harris is so pro-choice that if the mother wants to terminate a pregnancy, it matters not as to whether the baby could survive outside the womb with nurturing or care or not. Why? At that point, it's no longer the mother's body. This is a clear values question and a clear distinction regardless of how the media tries to obfuscate it. Bottom line, there should be zero doubt that Trump Vance are the more pro-life side than Harris and Walz. You can see that in their statements, which are often purposely overly nuanced, but you can also see it in their supporters. Trump says Harris wants to kill babies after birth, and Harris says Trump wants to ban all abortions. Harris says these are her values. Now, we need to take a break. When we come back, we'll move from the life issue to the sex issue. In uncertain times, finding stability in the economy can feel challenging. But what if you could navigate economic volatility while honoring your biblical values? At Timothy Plan, they believe this balance is possible. Timothy Plan filters its volatility-weighted ETFs and family of mutual funds through a biblical pro-life and pro-family lens, so you can see competitive returns and moral responsibility, helping you to weather the economic storms. With Timothy Plan, align your investments with your values while adapting to our ever-changing culture. Since 1994, Timothy Plan has been recognized leader in biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, your bridge between faith, finances, and the future. Visit timothyplan.com or call 1-800-TIM-PLAN or 1-800-846-7526. Investing includes risk, including possible loss of principal. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Before the break, we covered the life issue. And what comes before life? Now we're talking about sex. Here again, the Trump position would be considered moderate. Too moderate for many traditional Christians. And yet the Harris-Walz position is so far to the radical left that it makes Trump seem conservative. That's the exact same thing as we saw with the life issue. And once again, the Democrats try to split Trump's support depending on his audience. They've sent a bunch of trolls to reach Christians and discourage them from voting at all by saying Trump is pro-LGBTQ+. And to some degree, they're correct. The Republican platform is much less moderate on both life and sex issues than it used to be. But Christians should compare Trump's moderate stance with Kamala's radical positions. And even while the far left is messaging to Christians that Trump is pro-gay, they're at the same time telling LGBTQ+ that a Trump win would roll back protections and criminalize gender nonconformity. That's the headline from an ACLU hit piece. So which is it from Trump? The answer, of course, lies in between. It's sort of live and let live. The LGBTQ+ community does what they want, with the exception of perhaps mutilating children. But at the same time, the gay community is not given carte blanche to go after Christians or others of faith. Trump believes religious objectors have rights too. This, by the way, was supposed to be the outcome from the Supreme Court in the Obergefell decision that allowed nationwide gay marriage. Let me read from the majority opinion in the case. Finally, it must be emphasized that religions and those who adhere to religious doctrines may continue to advocate with utmost and sincere conviction that by divine precepts, same-sex marriage should not be condoned. First Amendment assures that religious organizations and persons are given proper protection as they seek to teach the principles that are so fulfilling and so central to their lives and faith, and that their own deep aspirations to continue the family structure they have long revered. That was the majority opinion. The dissents by Robert and Thomas were even more direct, and yet, under Obama and Biden, religious considerations were tossed aside in favor of LGBTQ+ rights. And Obama-Biden would be viewed as moderate compared to Harris and Walz. Everything we've seen in regard to drag queen story hour, recruiting of children in schools under the guise of sex education, and transgender surgeries for minors would be funded, supported, and mandated. Think I'm exaggerating? Watch this 30-second YouTube from Catholic Vote. It's frightening. It's also accurate.
Just in, Medicaid data shows 35 underage girls had their breasts completely removed. 7 underage girls underwent hysterectomies. Sex change operations attempting to make young boys into girls. Testicle removal. Sound weird? Disgusting? It is, and you're paying for it. Kamala Harris supports these taxpayer-funded sex change operations. A vote for Harris. A vote for medical experiments on kids.
During the debate, President Trump also called VP Harris out for supporting taxpayer-funded sex change surgeries for prisoners and illegal aliens. Of course, nearly every leftist media attempted to fact-check him live. Then later, on page 32, so to speak, they sheepishly had to correct their story. Fact-check it yourself, Trump was right. Here's a Blaze story that documents this. As Time magazine tries defending Harris by fact-checking Trump, then forced into an all-time correction. The funny thing is that the far-left media had no idea that Kamala Harris was even further to the left than they were or they realized. In 2019, CNN's Aaron Burnett was shocked and asked, "She really supports that?" on camera in a moment of honesty. Now they cover it up. Yes, the Harris-Walz team has supported having you pay for gender reassignment for prisoners, illegal aliens, and illegal alien prisoners. That would be an open call for anyone who wants a sex change to cross our border. Nearly 10 years ago, according to CNN, the cost per person was around $125,000. Think about 1 million transgender people coming here for that free $125,000 surgery at your expense, and prices have surely gone up. Does that represent your values? It does hers. And let's think for a moment about men and women's sports. Are you comfortable with a biological male beating up a woman in boxing? How about a man sharing locker rooms, prisons, and even beds with female high school athletes on road trips where the women are silenced if they dare to object? The scary part is that sensible people, including many sensible Democrats and liberals, are being silenced. If they can cancel Shout Down and attempt to silence J.K. Rowling, the brilliant novelist who created Harry Potter, once adored by the left, they will absolutely try to silence you. And you don't have the fame and fortune that she has to defend yourself. The truth is that Harris is absolutely radical in her support of transgender rights, even over the rights of her own biological gender. Here's a headline from Washington Stand on August 4th. Olympic boxing controversy shows where Kamala's anti-woman policies will lead. That's because they beat up a girl in the boxing ring. Riley Gaines, a 12-time NCAA All-American women's swimmer, was once forced to share her title with a biological male. This is what she said to Jesse Waters on Fox. "And if I could, I implore you, a vote for Kamala is a vote against your daughter's future. I see lots of people on social media saying they will be voting for Kamala because she's a woman. Well, let me tell you, Jesse, I will be voting for Trump because I'm a woman." On her podcast, Gaines went even further, warning that a Harris presidency would put Biden's gender policies on steroids. She calls a Harris win a scary thought, not just for women, it's a scary thought for humanity itself. Really, as a woman, it does make me fearful. It makes me fearful for my younger sister. It makes me fearful for a daughter of my own one day. And I will be voting for President Trump because I care about my daughter's future. Okay, so we've covered the life or pro-choice death issues. And sex comes before that choice. What comes before sex? How about lust? Here's the question. Do you want pornography in taxpayer-funded schools? That's happening now, and Harris Waltz support it. Of course, they couch their support as opposition to book banning. PragerU did a video with Aldo as a man on the street where he took the books to the streets of California. He interviewed people 100% opposed to banning books. Let's see what they found.
No.
What did you say?
No.
They should ban these, you're saying?
No, I don't think we should ban books on sex education
I
or...
don't think they need to have these in like an elementary school.
Exactly.
I don't want my kids seeing that.
Do you have any kids?
I do, I have two.
Well, how would you feel if you knew that your kid's library had these books available?
I don't think I'd be happy about it because I would rather speak to my children about those things. And not that they shouldn't learn those things at school, but maybe not in this way.
I'm really against any books that have any type of an agenda to, educate children about issues that they shouldn't even be thinking about or talking about.
The question is, should parents have a right to dictate what material their children consume in public schools?
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
Because that's your child.
I think the problem comes, when you hear the word book ban, right? You think of people tossing books into a fire.
Right.
And when you see these books that they've banned in certain school districts, do you understand why parents might not want these in their kids' schools?
100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
That says it all. Even the far leftists they interviewed agreed that young children should not be exposed to such material, although some thought it would be okay for high school. All right, we're going to need to take a break, but don't you agree with the people that Aldo and PragerU interviewed? Don't you agree that that sort of stuff doesn't belong in public schools? All right, we're talking about values. We're going to dive further. We're going to learn who's better, Harris or Trump, for your values. We'll be back right after the break.
Somewhere a perversion has taken place. Our natural unalienable rights are now considered to be a dispensation of government, and freedom has never been so fragile, so close to slipping from our grasp as it is at this moment.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It has to be fought for and defended by each generation.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
In this most critical time in our nation's history, now more than ever, Americans need to align with companies that support our constitutional rights and God-given freedoms. Patriot Mobile supports your values and provides exceptional 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join the movement today. Go to patriotmobile.com or call 972-PATRIOT.
So far, we've compared and contrasted the value of Harris and Trump on the issues of life, sex, and pornography. Those who believe in traditional values should be much more comfortable with Trump. Harris' positions are so extreme that even liberals are shocked when they learn of them. But these are just the most obvious issues and some of the big ones. What about the 10 Commandments overall? How about thou shalt not steal? Seems obvious, but Kamala Harris supported Prop 47 in California, which, among other things, reclassified the following offenses from felonies to misdemeanors if the dollar value was below $950. Shoplifting, grand theft, receiving stolen property, forgery, fraud, writing a bad check, and personal use of most illegal drugs. Trump called her out on this and at the debate, and the media lashed back. But let's look at the facts. For one thing, shoplifting became an epidemic. This proposition specifically prohibited police from arresting shoplifters if the value of what was taken was below $950. Many more stores were forced to close their doors just due to crime. In fact, Newsweek even wrote a story about it in March of this year. It's full list of California stores that have closed due to crime. Stores listed include 7-Eleven, Whole Foods, Nordstrom, Target, Starbucks, Denny's, In-N-Out Burger, Macy's, and Taco Bell. Does that reflect your values? Of course not. And it's the hardworking people of California who are hurt, rich, middle class, and poor. Plus, prices go up from those who try to stay in business to offset the losses. It's consumers who are being robbed. Is this what you want in your city and neighborhood? Should the person who was the brainchild and ardent supporter of California Prop 47 be given keys to the White House? Prop 47 was also about drugs. She supported it, and deaths from overdose skyrocketed. Take a look at this chart based on official government data. Within 3 years of passage, death rates started rising. Across the board, overdose deaths are 3 to 5 times higher than what they were before Prop 47 was passed. Even the CDC has noticed the tragedy of increased overdose. It's not just California. The University of Toronto Department of Economics saw similar impacts in Oregon with the mass decriminalization of drugs. The Journal of Public Economics found increased overdoses correlated with needle exchange programs similar to those offered in Prop 47 as well. Now, Prop 47 is a signature policy for Kamala Harris. If it were working, she'd be touting it. Now she's denying it. And real people have died as a result. I'm going to quote Pacific Justice Institute. The number of people killed by drugs in the 9 years from 2014 to 2022 is over 60,000. Yet if the number of overdoses had remained at their 2017 levels when Prop 47 kicked in, the number of deaths would have been 24,340 over the same 6 years. The media will try to tell you that Harris had nothing to do with Prop 47, that she stayed out of the fray as Attorney General. But that's not how the people of California remember it. And as a major leader in the state, she could have and should have spoken up against that insanity. She didn't. In fact, she was a big proponent behind the scenes. What she did was to allow Prop 47 to be marketed to the public as tough on crime. According to NBC, Steve Cooley, who served as LA County District Attorney from 2000 to 2012, blamed the rise in crime on Harris and the referendum. The damage has been untold and, in a sense, irreparable, said Cooley. Now, he's a Republican, but he was the head of Los Angeles District Attorney at the time. He said it was beyond bait and switch. It was fraud by misrepresentation. Also from NBC News, Douglas Eckenrod, former Deputy Director of Parole for the California prison system. He said, Kamala Harris is not a hardliner on crime. Prop 47 couldn't happen without the AG's office support, her support. He said her support of it was literally critical. Now that we know how Prop 47 turned out, is that aligned with your values? President Trump clearly denounces Prop 47 and has been attacked by the national media for it. Of course, he was fact-checked, even though he was right. In our closing minutes, let's quickly run through a few other values issues. How about race relations? Kamala Harris has stoked racial division with calls for equity rather than equality. What this means is that she favors reparations as one way to make everyone equal in outcome. That sounds so honorable, but in practice, it would be a nightmare. To get everyone ending in the same place, you're basically offering participation trophies to sports teams and not keeping score. You're removing incentives from those willing to work harder. In effect, equity over time takes you to the lowest common denominator rather than rewarding excellence. By all means, make certain that people have equal opportunity, but forcing equal outcomes? Imagine a kid who can't read, living in the projects of Detroit, with a good mom who pushes him to study. He gets an opportunity, he goes to Yale, he becomes a doctor. That would be Dr. Ben Carson. And yet I know Dr. Carson, and he believes pure equity would be terrible for America and especially bad for the black community. Now, just in case that Harris has tried to scrub her very vocal support as equity, as she's done for so many other things, let's play a clip where she said it in her own words.
You know, so many of us have come from movements that were about the fight for equality. We also understand there's a difference between equality and equity. Equity is everyone deserves to have, right, and be treated equal. But equity understands that not everybody starts out on the same base. So if you're giving everybody an equal amount, but they're starting out on different bases, are they really going to have the opportunity to compete and achieve? That's why we purposefully, as an administration, the president, myself, the secretary, and everyone in our administration, are so dedicated to a specific principle, which is that of equity.
What she's espousing is actually socialism or Marxism. Is that how you feel? Is that what you want? This isn't just a surface position. Kamala Harris is proud to be woke and wants everyone to be woke. Listen to this clip from 2017 when she spoke to the Recode conference.
You know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
The bottom line is that Kamala Harris is likely not aligned with your values, whether life, sexuality, pornography, crime, drugs, or equality. And in each of those areas, I suspect that Donald Trump is much closer to what you believe. Her purpose is to fundamentally change traditional values into her woke view of the world. They've been at it for 12 of the last 16 years under Obama and Biden. But now the radical Democrat Party under Harris wants to cement their leftist approach once and for all. This is how socialism took over in Venezuela, and now it seems they aren't allowed to vote themselves out of it. Don't be fooled. We've compared Trump to Harris in terms of liberty, in terms of security, and now in terms of values. Trump aligns more with traditional America. Harris, more with socialism or communism. That's the difference. Liberty, security, and values. Which is better for you, Trump or Harris? I think it's obvious. Now, everything that I've shared is well documented with lots of links, and it's going to be well supported, and you'll find all that information in our free economic battle plan. You can download free at economicwarroom.com. What we see as a marketplace, our enemies view as a battle space. This is Kevin Freeman from the Economic War Room.